Let's talk about young voters. You said yesterday that you wanted millions of young voters to turn out, but you just said you're against pot, you're against gay marriage. You don't believe that global warming is man-made. Those are issues that, if you look at the polls, young people are completely have a different view of that. Are you out of step with most young voters, and how do you convince them given that?
Well, let me take one of the components of your question and address it directly, then let me address your broader question. You mentioned global warming. I'm a big believer that we should follow the science and follow the evidence. If you look at global warming alarmists, they don't like to look at the actual facts and the data. The satellite data demonstrate that there has been no significant warming whatsoever for 17 years. Now that's a real problem for the global warming alarmists, because all of the computer models on which this whole issue was based predicted significant warming, and yet the satellite data show it ain't happening.
But what if there is something to it? I mean, let's say, a lot of people say the science is clear. Most people say the science is clear, but let's say that it's not. Let's say it's not clear. Why not do everything we can to reduce our carbon footprint? Wouldn't that be good to have some humility about it and maybe think?
Okay, let's talk about having humility. I read this morning a Newsweek article from the 1970s. Talking about global cooling. And it said the science is clear, it is overwhelming, we are in a major cooling period, and it's going to cause enormous problems worldwide. And the solution for all the advocates in the 70s of global cooling was massive government control of the energy sector, of our economy, and aspects of our lives. Now, the data proved to be not backing up that theory, so then all the advocates of global cooling suddenly shifted to global warming. And they advocated it's warming, and the solution, interestingly enough, was the exact same solution: government control of the energy sector and every aspect of our lives. But then the data don't back that up. So if you notice, the term has shifted, and now suddenly it's climate change. And climate change, and again, the solution is government control of the energy sector and every aspect of our lives. And when someone keeps proposing the same solution regardless of the problem, you start to think maybe they just like government control of the energy sector and every aspect of our lives. And I am the child of two mathematicians and scientists. I believe in following evidence and data. On the global warming alarmists, anyone who actually points to the evidence that disproves their apocalyptical claims, they don't engage in reasoned debate. What do? They scream, "You're a denier." They brand you a heretic. It is... Today, the global warming alarmists are the equivalent of the flat earthers. It used to be, it is accepted scientific wisdom, the earth is flat, and this heretic named Galileo was branded a denier. And you know what? There are an awful lot of people making a whole lot of money. Al Gore has made millions of dollars off of global warming, and a lot of these scientists who are most vocal about it are receiving massive grants on this theory that the data are not backing up. And you ask, well, why shouldn't we do everything? We shouldn't be causing millions of hardworking men and women to have their energy bills go through the roof. It causes real harm and suffering when people all across this country lose jobs because the federal government wants to take control of aspects of our lives. It causes real suffering when single moms who are trying to feed their kids see their energy bills skyrocket because politicians are imposing massive costs, and that's not something we should do lightly.
You're not really getting anywhere with that argument with young people. Would you agree? Would you agree with that?
At
least right now.
I actually wouldn't, and let me make a broader point. With young people, when I ran for Senate in Texas, we saw an incredible grassroots coalition come together, and it was a coalition of young people, of Republican women, of Tea Party leaders, of Hispanics, of small business owners, of working men and women all across the country. And it was in a very large part driven by young people who were on social media, who were on Facebook, who were on Twitter. There's a reason why when I announced for president, I did so at 12:01 a.m. on Twitter. Because I think young people, if you were to sit down, Jay, and try to design an agenda to hammer the living daylights out of young people, it would be hard to come up with a more effective agenda than the Obama economic agenda. 3 simple points. Number 1, For 6 years, young people have been coming out of school at a time of stagnation, when it is harder and harder for them to find jobs. Economists are calling this generation of young people a lost generation. And if they don't get jobs now, the income effect will be with them for decades. There are so many young people at home with a faded poster of hope and change on the wall, sleeping in their parents' basement. Number two, let me finish the impacts on young people. Number two, Obamacare. One of the easiest ways to understand Obamacare is that it is a massive wealth transfer from young, healthy people to everybody else. And by the way, young, healthy people are a lot less wealthy on average than older people. And number three, the national debt. When Obama was elected, the national debt was $10 trillion. Today, it's $18 trillion. It's larger than our economy. Who the heck do you think is going to pay for that? And so what I tried to talk about yesterday was young people that want to have a brighter future, want to be able to come out of school, and instead of having no jobs or working part-time serving coffee, can actually start a career and have 3, 4, 5, 6 job offers, have the sort of economic vibrancy that young people want, and we want our constitutional rights protected. And I think that is an agenda that inspires and energizes young people. And I'll tell you, I'm encouraged and in fact overwhelmed by the support we're seeing. Yesterday, I was on a college campus with 12,000 young people, and the energy there was electric. That's the key, I believe, to turning the country around, energizing millions of courageous conservatives to reignite the promise of America.
But aren't you out of step on these social issues with the young people?